Yo, what's going on, guys? Matthew V. Haynes here, aka the Clockmaster. So, you guys see the title. This is a video that I've been thinking about because we've been hearing a lot of stuff lately with different rumors about maybe George Lucas coming back to do a trilogy for Star Wars, for Disney Star Wars, specifically in Lucasfilm, and we've been hearing some other stuff. So I'm just going to share my thoughts and opinions on this and answer the question with my own opinion, I guess, on if George Lucas should return to Star Wars. Let's go. Okay, so before you guys let me know if you guys think George Lucas should return, man. There's been a lot, like, recently, the Disney Star Wars universe, or just the Disney Star Wars movies have divided the fan base, like all the way down the middle. Like, there's people who really love those movies and people who really hate those movies, and then there's people in between that are like, okay, it's sort of like me, which can find the pros and the cons of having those movies made. And I'm kind of in the middle with that. So some people will say, man, I really miss George Lucas. I really miss his work. I really miss him directing movies. I remember him getting a whole bunch of backlash when the prequels came out, actually. When the prequels came out, George Lucas got a lot of bash and got a lot of stuff said to him about those movies. A lot of people didn't like those movies. So going forward now, and then seeing the sequel movies and sequel trilogies, you find a lot more fans are like, okay, I love this movie, I love these are better. Like, they're saying that the prequels are better than this, and then some people are like, no, I don't like this. And then you have the new fans coming in, the younger people coming in, stuff like that, from different generation coming in and watching these movies. And people like to point fingers. Kathleen Kennedy, it's her fault. It's Disney's fault. All this kind of stuff. People are just saying all these kinds of things. And, you know, you would ask yourself the question, how do you think that Disney would be the same, or Disney Star Wars would be the same as it was if George Lucas was behind it? Absolutely not. It won't be. And to answer the question real quickly, I would say, yes, I do think George Lucas, it would be great for him to return back to Star Wars, but not as someone who oversees everything. I think his role would be better as a legit advisor or producer. I feel with him being there as a script advisor, a producer, someone there to kind of take them on and give advice for the story, give his opinions, kind of steerhead where this stuff goes, and actually be involved, and even if he's not just an advisor, as a producer, someone who actually gets kind of involved with the story and doesn't necessarily have the final say, but someone who kind of helps steerhead the story in a certain way that has some type of continuity. I feel like it would benefit more if George Lucas was in that position. Now, some people would say, yes, George Lucas is already in that position. He's already an advisor. He's already doing this. Yeah, sorta. He's like George Lucas. I was having a conversation with my buddy Dylan again. We talk about Star Wars whenever we get a chance to, and he was basically saying that, like, George Lucas is like the guy that you kind of invite to the studio to watch, but not necessarily for him to have an actual input or an actual hand in the story. Now, what I'm proposing is somewhat different than that. For George Lucas to come back, not necessarily as a creative lead, but someone to help steerhead the stories as an actual executive producer, someone who's actually involved, like how Filoni is involved with Jon Favreau. Even though he's not a director for those episodes of The Mandalorian, he's involved in the storyline altogether. He's involved with kind of making sure the story does certain things, kind of like maybe giving advice there, maybe correcting something that might seem kind of off or not make sense. And I feel like it would benefit the Disney Star Wars movies as a whole if George Lucas were to come back and help spearhead a trilogy, executive produced by George Lucas, directed by such and such, or if it was like directed by or produced by Kevin Feige, George Lucas, or whatever. Now, there is a con to that proposal, though, because if George Lucas is involved again, he's gonna want to have control. I feel like part of him is gonna want to be like, no, 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 don't do it this way. You have to do it this way, or no, 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 this has to be done in this, whatever. We got to do the story this way. And I feel like that would be a little bit of an issue for those who's actually working on the story, because I do think that it's beneficial for these Star Wars movies to have new directors, new writers, and people to kind of help create new stories for Star Wars within this world that George Lucas created. And I think that would be a really good thing to have. To have the different writers come on and do that. With George Lucas trying to stick to what he has created for Star Wars and trying to stick to what he wants, that could be an issue, and I don't necessarily see it fitting with what's going on right now with the world, because whether you love or hate the sequel trilogy, it's there, it exists, problems and all, complications and all, rumors and all these kind of things that are coming out from it, all of that, the sequel trilogy exists and it's there, and we just got to deal with it. So going forward, it'd be really nice to have, like, as I mentioned, George Lucas on as an advisor, someone to give some really concrete, good advice on some things. And that's kind of some of the roles that I would actually want to see him in. And actually, maybe, Disney actually adapting some of the storylines and some of the ideas that he might have had. Like, they might be going in a completely different direction and doing, focusing more on High Republic storylines, focusing more on the TV shows, which they're killing right now. Like Star Wars Rebels was really good. The last season of Clone Wars, which they funded, did very well, even though it was Dave Filoni behind it. The Mandalorian obviously is kicking straight butt right now, and the second season is going to be even better. From the looks of it, in my opinion, I think the second season is going to be even better, 10 times better. So there's a lot that Disney's doing right. The comic books are really good. The books are really good. Those things are really drawing people in. The audiobooks are really good as well. But they need to take some of those creative ideas and actually really make good, cohesive, concrete stories with proper continuity and proper character development and proper storylines. And I think that's something that George Lucas would be able to do well. George Lucas isn't the end-all be-all of Star Wars anymore. I think he plays an important role with it, and with the creation of Star Wars and what it means to people. But there's a lot of great filmmakers out there, a lot of great storytellers out there. So what you really need is a good director to spearhead the storyline, a good story, a decent story, and a story that is cohesive. And then you can use people like George Lucas and Dave Filoni to kind of step in and add different things here, trying to see how this would make sense for the world, why this would or wouldn't make sense for the environment, why this would or wouldn't make sense for the world that they're in and what they're trying to do. So I think that that's kind of what we would need for Star Wars going forward. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. There's nothing too crazy going on in this video, but I just wanted to kind of talk about that. This little quick ramble on the idea. If you guys want to add more to what I'm talking about, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. And if this is your first video of mine to the channel, you want to see more videos like these, news coverage for Star Wars, MCU, DC stuff, let me know. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Clockmaster